Welcome back to the Bentonville Beacon podcast. I'm your host, James Bell, and in this first season, we're exploring Bentonville's outdoor recreation industry. And I'm thrilled to have with me today Scott Holley, who is president and co-owner of Eddyline Kayaks. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, James. Great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. Well, let's help our viewers get their bearings. If you will, tell us about Scott Holley. What should we know about you?
Sounds great. Well, first of all, I haven't been a kayak enthusiast all my life. I'll get a little bit into that history. I guess you could say I'm a reformed investment banker, but I've been traveling to the Bentonville area relatively recently. I made my first trip out there about 4 years ago and was really surprised by what I saw there. And so the seeds of this go back about 4 or 5 years. But in terms of me personally, my name's Scott Holley. I'm married, have 3 kids, 7, 9, and 13. And I love the great outdoors. And I think that's one of the reasons that I've been really attracted to what I've found out in Arkansas. Professionally, I'm the president and co-owner of Eddyline Kayaks. Bought the company along with the management team about 5 years ago. And originally grew up in Idaho, so I know we're going to be talking a little bit about what perceptions of places can be. And I spent some time out in Boston and in California as well. And currently I'm in our corporate headquarters in Burlington, Washington. So I've been able to see quite a bit of this great country of ours. And right now I'm spending my time here in Washington as well as in Mexico, where we have a production facility, and I've been down there quite a bit over the last year as well.
Wonderful. I too have lived all over the country. Went from Little Rock to New Orleans, Nashville, Chicago, Denver, Memphis, and eventually here to Bentonville. So I'm looking forward to getting into your experiences in different places. Will you share with us how you got involved in kayaking?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I guess it's been about 6 years ago now, I was doing investment banking and actually working with venture capital and private equity funds, mostly on the coast, and kind of had one of those career inflection moments, I think, like a lot of us have. And I was always really interested in entrepreneurship, but I never had any good ideas of my own. And I really wasn't drawn towards the tech scene. And so the option set was a little bit limited, but someone introduced me to the concept of entrepreneurship through acquisition. Basically, the idea being that there's a lot of great businesses out there that are owned and ran by entrepreneurs who are getting along and are looking to retire. And most of them are facing 2 challenges simultaneously. They need to find a trusted successor, someone to take over the day-to-day management of their company. And then they need someone to buy out their equity that they've built in their company, generally over a long period of time. And so I embarked on that process of entrepreneurship through acquisition. I was not actually looking to buy a kayak company per se. I just got lucky. I was looking at all sorts of companies. I looked at seafood processing companies. I looked at different other types of manufacturing companies. But I was looking for companies near where I was living in Northwest Washington State, north of Seattle and south of Vancouver. And one day I got a phone call from an economic development advisor who said, "Hey, there's someone you need to meet." And later that afternoon, I was sitting in his office with Tom and Lisa Derer, who founded Eddyline Kayaks all the way back in 1971. So the question that you asked me, how did I get into kayaking, was pretty similar to the first question that Tom Derer asked me, which was, what was your experience with kayaking? And the answer I gave to him was, I have very little experience in kayaking. Of course, I'm sitting across a desk from the godfather of kayaking, sea kayaking in North America. So I'm going to undersell rather than oversell my kayak experience to this gentleman. But I had been kayaking a handful of times as one of the sports I got into when I first came out to Northwest Washington. There's a lot of great water here, just like there's a lot of great water in Bentonville, different type of water. Mm-hmm. But we've got the San Juan Islands and the Puget Sound, which has just a lot of great sea kayaking, North Cascades, a lot of lakes. And this was where Eddyline Kayaks had grown up. So it was kind of the answer to the question, how'd you get into kayaking? It was kind of the universe put it all together for me, and I was really fortunate to be able to meet Tom and Lisa Dare. We spent several months seeing if we could put a deal together, talking to the management team, and then importantly making plans for how we were going to work together after the deal was done. And we closed that transaction 5 years ago, and Tom and Lisa retired, and I joined the company as president and co-owner, and it's been a wild ride ever since.
That is a great story. I've been to the San Juan Islands and spent a bit of time on Puget Sound. What a beautiful place, and what a great story for you. Hey, what other sports do you enjoy?
Well, as I mentioned, I grew up in Idaho, so anything outdoors, I'm kind of instantly drawn to. I love camping and hiking. And so as a family, we've actually combined all of those, and we do a lot of kayak camping. So with our product, we're able to actually load up for 3 to 4 days with the family in our kayaks. And then we've got a few spots, mostly in Washington, but I'm looking forward to doing some more kayak camping out in Arkansas and the Buffalo and other places. But we like doing multi-day trips that are supported out of our kayaks, and then doing hiking going along with that. So pretty much anything outdoors, I'm good to go with. One thing I'm getting into a little bit more is mountain biking. Obviously, that's a bit of a rite of passage, spending any time in Arkansas. So I look forward to getting more into that sport as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how you strap a mountain bike onto a kayak.
That
was my attempt at humor.
Sounds like an opportunity. Well, actually, we have been kicking around some ideas of water trails and connecting them to bike trails. So we'll see. Who knows, James? That may not end up being as crazy as you might have thought.
Well, that would be so cool. I'd try that. So let's talk more about Eddyline Kayaks. First of all, congratulations. You're nearly as old as our Fortune 1 here in Bentonville. That's exciting. Will you share with our audience about your mission and your products and sort of the history? You gave us a little bit of a history lesson, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eddyline's mission and purpose is really quite simple. We are out there helping people to safely access healthy and clean waterways. So for us, the safety portion is really important. We use all of our products, and we make sure that we design all of our products for a comfortable, high-performing experience on the water, but also with safety in mind. So that's really what our mission and purpose is all about. And we've got a legacy. We've got 50 years of product out on the water. We have 50 years of customers having experiences with our product, and a certain expectation of what they're going to experience all the way from the moment that they make that initial purchase decision, all the things that we do to support them thereafter. But safety is a big part of it. Clean and healthy waterways. We're a company that takes very seriously our environmental impact as well. Our manufacturing processes are among some of the cleanest and most sustainable in the industry, and that's something that we're passionate about as well. But for us, it's really all about the memories and the experience that our customers have on the water. As I mentioned, first of all, we want them to be safe, but afterwards, we really just want their tool, in this case, the kayak, to kind of disappear and allow them to be on the water and enjoying the great outdoors in ways that you really only can from self-propelled watercraft like a kayak.
That's pretty neat. I love that you talked about creating products and taking care of our waterways at the same time. I was looking at your website. I made myself a note here, so if I look down a moment, testing my knowledge. I'm going to test your knowledge. You know this answer. What's vacuum bag and thermoformed kayak technology, and how has this been an advantage for Eddyline?
Yeah. So another really exciting and just kind of happenstance in the universe working together is not only are we located right next to the beautiful Puget Sound and San Juan Islands, where sea kayaking in North America really had its nadir back in the 60s and 70s, but we're also located right next to Boeing, and a lot of technology coming out of the aerospace industry. We just happen to be co-located next to a lot of these companies. So vacuum bagging is a method of composite manufacturing, particularly fiberglassing, that makes sure that the amount of resin along with the amount of carbon fiber is kept in good proportion. And that makes sure that you have a lightweight and stiff product. So when we were doing fiberglass kayaks in the original, in the early days of the company, we were the first to use that vacuum bag technology in order to get that appropriate mixture of materials to get the weight and performance right. And that was technology that came directly out of aerospace. Similarly, with thermoforming, Eddyline was the first to thermoform a kayak. So what's thermoforming? We do work with a plastic material. It's ABS with an acrylic cap. The majority of the plastic material that's on the market in the industry is polyethylene. Polyethylene is a softer material. It's got some great properties in terms of its ability to be manufactured cheaply and at a price point. But with thermoformed ABS, what we're able to do is we're able to make a lightweight, highly durable product that has a great aesthetic appeal, and we do that through thermoforming. So what we do is we take this extruded composite plastic material, we heat it in an oven, but not to a melting point, just to where it becomes pliable. We pull the laminate sheet of plastic out of the oven, we vacuum form it onto a mold. So the mold presses into the plastic, a vacuum kicks on, and it forms to that shape. That allows us to get really great lines on our hull and on our deck that really just help with the aesthetic as well as with the hydrodynamics and the performance of the product in the water. So that's thermoforming in a second.
That's neat. I need to check that out. I was thinking about carbon fiber when you brought it up. I guess I didn't realize that kayaks had any carbon fiber in it. Is that common, or is it just yours, or what's the deal with
Yeah, so you can kind of break out the kayak industry into different tiers based on the material type and the manufacturing process. I'd say that carbon fiber still is kind of the premier premium spot. So you can buy a carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber, Kevlar, all of those composite materials. You can still buy kayaks out of that. It's a relatively small part of the market. And then again, on the kind of the price point level, you've got the rotational molded polyethylene, blow molded polyethylene. And we're taking up kind of that middle tier and occupying the premium spot in that. So we do not do any fiberglassing anymore, except for in our mold making and in our design and construction. Right now, all of our material, all of our kayaks are made out of thermoformed ABS plastic.
Neat. Sounds like the best of a couple of worlds.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll just, on that point, fiberglass, it's messy. It's not super sustainable with the scrap. Most of the scrap just ends up in a landfill, and it's really labor intensive. With thermoforming, we get a lot of the product performance. We're able to recycle almost 100% of the scrap material that's generated during the process, and the labor component is, less than 25% of what it is for a composite kayak.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Hey, I recently read about some of your accomplishments. One of them that stood out was paddling.com's 2021 Best Touring Kayak Brand. Congratulations. Can you tell us what that's all about?
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of lists out there on the internet, as you can imagine. And within paddle sports, it's no different. There's some industry associations where you'll have industry members, manufacturers, retailers vote on product. You'll have industry show participants vote on product. And then sometimes you'll have lists that are generated based on who knows what criteria to generate fill for online content. But in this case, this was based off of customer reviews. So on paddling.com, you can go in, users can type in their reviews of a product, and based on that ranking, that's what those what that was based on. So paddling.com looked at all of the reviews for their touring category, which is their kind of higher end category. We talk about selling touring, recreational, and then sit on top kayaks as distinct categories. Touring kayaks tend to be more expensive, longer boats that are more generally geared towards sea kayaking than recreational boats, more for lakes and rivers. So in this case, they looked at all of the touring reviews and they sorted them, and they found that we had 2 of the 5 top spots of the 2 of the 5 best reviewed boats. And then based on that, they called us the best reviewed brand in the touring category. And that was meaningful for us because, while getting pats on the back from industry insiders is great, while seeing a random list that has us at the top based on who knows what criteria, that's not bad either. But having the voice of the end user say, we went out and we thought so highly of your product that we went here and we reviewed it and we gave it, a 5-star review. That was great. And actually, if you go on right now, I think we have 3 of the top 5 recreational reviewed products as well. So ultimately, that's our barometer of success, right? If the the end users are having such a great experience with our product that they're telling their friends, that they're telling the world based on reviews on websites, that they're having a great experience with our brand, with our company and our product, then we think we're doing our job right.
Man, that's wonderful. There is nothing better than the customers saying you're the best. Where can consumers find your kayaks?
Well, for listeners of this podcast, the Bentonville Beacon, head on out to Ozark Kayak on North Highway 71, right next to Little Sugar Creek. Talk to Keegan Ward. He's the owner there, and he carries our brand. He reached out to us a few years ago, and we're delighted with that partnership there. But otherwise, if you're outside the area, just go to eddyline.com and you can look at our dealer locator. We only sell through independent retailers. So, the best place to buy a premium product like a kayak is going to be an independent retailer where they can help you with the fit, making sure that you're buying the right kayak for your body type, your experience type, and the type of water that you want to be kayaking in.
That's cool. Okay, so by this point in the episode, our more local viewers must be wondering, other than a distributor, here's a company that's located in Burlington, Washington, as you said, about halfway between 2 beautiful places, Seattle and Vancouver. What in the world is your connection to Bentonville, Arkansas?
Well, it's you get to a certain point in life that you kind of look at the different threads in the universe and you say, man, there's got to be something going on here, because these random coincidences are just too much. And I mentioned how I first got in touch with the company. I think the way that we ended up establishing a connection in Northwest Arkansas is very similar. One of the challenges, as you can imagine, manufacturing and distributing kayaks is the distribution part, right? You're basically talking about shipping really big boxes of air. And in our case, we're headquartered in Northwest Washington. We sell a lot of sit-on tops in Florida. That is literally the longest distance that you can travel in the continental U.S. To ship a product from point A to point B. So as we grew, we really, started with independent retailers in the Western U.S., and we've got a really good distribution network going on out here. And as we've grown, we've really taken off in other parts of the country as well. Upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, lots of great kayaking there. They love our boats. We've really grown out there. I just got back from Maine, and there's a lot of harbors and islands and national parks
Mm-hmm.
and lakes out there, and they love our products. So we've been getting more distribution out there. And then obviously, as I mentioned, Florida, their kayaking is just really, really taken off in Florida, such that 1 out of 3 kayaks sold in the U.S. right now sold in the state of Florida. So those territories were important for us, and they were also growing. But as shipping was getting more expensive, we were having a harder time getting our product out to some of those territories. A lot of our competitors are actually based in the Southeast. That's where they're manufacturing. So by the time we get, a product to the Mississippi River, we're already, fighting from behind the curve from a transportation and cost perspective. So we were looking at this idea of having a place somewhere in the heartland that could serve as a distribution location. As we've grown, we also added in a manufacturing facility in central Mexico to support our growth. And so that need became even greater. So we called our transportation and logistics partners, and we said, hey, this is what we're looking for. We need a place somewhere in the heartland to, facilitate distribution and cross-docking and forward deploying product for these end markets. Our lanes, our customers, where should we be looking? And they said, well, they named off 3 or 4 locations, of which Arkansas was one of them. So I picked up the phone and I called a friend of mine, Beth Day, who is in commercial real estate. Said, hey, keep an eye out for a warehouse, because we need to start looking at this, and we've been told that Arkansas is somewhere that we should look at. In a very small world coincidence, she was speaking at a mountain biking event to her friend Gary Vernon. And I've got to imagine that for your listeners or anyone in the outdoor rec community in Bentonville, they're going to be familiar with that name. Gary being a driving force behind the development of the mountain biking trail and all the Walton Family Foundation's done around that part of outdoor recreation. And then the third small world coincidence that goes along with this story is that week Gary had received his special order of an Eddyline kayak that he had bought after reviewing all of these online reviews and had ordered through Ozark Kayaks. So,
oh wow!
Within a couple of weeks, I was out there in Arkansas meeting with Gary, talking about his vision for Northwest Arkansas and the heartland and outdoor recreation and all of that. Saw in him a kindred spirit, really excited about the energy that I saw out there around that. So that's when we really decided we said, distribution's one thing, but we really want to find a location that can represent us in the heartland, that shares our vision, our values, and that the region itself is an area for end consumers, because we recognize that if we're going to be landing a lot of kayaks in a certain location, gosh, wouldn't it be great if that backyard was a growth region and territory as well for consumers? So anyway, one thing led to another, and that's how we ended up choosing Arkansas as a place for us to look towards that next phase of our growth as a company.
Wow, nice job. It's wonderful when all the stars align, isn't it?
It is. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, I believe I read that y'all also got an investment from perhaps a local VC firm, RZC.
RZC made an investment in our company concurrent with some of these growth initiatives, and they've been phenomenal partners. So we do currently have an investor and a board member in Bentonville, and we have board meetings there, and we're just very excited to be plugged into the local business community in general.
And I think I can figure out from the story how you discovered RZC or how they found you. What are your plans for joining Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas in the future? I think you mentioned distribution center. So I guess that's one way you could do it. Are you thinking store, experience center, anything beyond that, or just start with the distribution center and see where it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that we're really excited about with the vision of the Walton Family Foundation, RZC, as well as just everything that's happening, is kind of the long-term vision. We've been around for 50 years as a company, and our current management team has been the owner for the last 5 years. So, we've been around for, as owners, only 10% of the story. So,
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that we want to do over time. We still are a small company, and obviously as a small company that's priding on service and quality, execution is job one. So some of the things that we're thinking about are going to take a lot of time. But I'll talk kind of broadly about where we see the industry going, and that might give you an idea as to where what that'll mean for the region as well. One of the things that we've seen, and especially during COVID, is that consumers are looking to have a more direct relationship to the brand. So whereas before a retailer would really push product out to consumers, consumers now are coming in armed with a lot of information, with a lot of foreknowledge, and really the role then of the retailer is shifting a little bit. So we know that we need to maintain that relationship with the end user. You mentioned as well, the value of that word of mouth and the value of a positive recommendation. We have absolutely been the beneficiary of that. And so, being in a place, again, where we have end users is going to be important so that we can keep that feedback loop tight and maintain that direct connection with our customers. The retailers who end up doing the best job with our product have a few things in common. They stock our product deeply, they're very knowledgeable about it, and they have experiences to go along with the sales. So they've got rentals, they've got tours, and if they're not doing that directly, they've got partnerships locally that are providing those experiences. It's not uncommon with our retailers throughout the country that someone's first foray into Eddyline is a rental or is part of an experience, and that they then end up purchasing one for themselves. So experience, direct connection to consumers, all those things are going to be more important, not just for our brand, but for brands across the industry. So what does that end up looking like? It could end up looking like a lot of things, some of the things that you just mentioned. But absolutely, working with our dealer partners, we're going to be looking for opportunities to have more direct experiences with our products. We want to have a voice at the table as water trails and water recreation and access to water is up for discussion in the region, and so that we can look to become part of that over time. In the short run, we're going to continue to support our dealer partners. We're going to continue to build great products. We're going to continue to support it with legendary service. But what I would love to see, if you fast forward 5 to 10 years from now, is something that the development looks a lot like what you've seen in mountain bikes and in biking in general. And I can't think of a place anywhere that has really created that model better than Arkansas. So what does that mean? Maybe it means that you have defined water trails the same way you've got defined bike trails. I mentioned Ozark Kayak. I think this is one of your questions, so I might be jumping the gun a little bit. But
Go for it.
I floated Sugar Creek north along Highway 71 through the golf courses, going up to the lakes, and that was a great experience. I think that there's opportunities to continue to develop defined water trails, connect them to bike trails, have them in urban environments, have them in rural environments. And I know that there's just a lot of real goodwill in the area, and a lot of willing coalitions that already exist or already want to be doing these things. And there's a role for brand partners, and there's a role for products in that ecosystem. And we're just thrilled that we're there and we're part of those conversations.
Man, if we can do for paddle sports and kayaking what's happened to mountain biking over the last several years, that would be phenomenal. I mean, I think there's already a base of it starting to happen, right, on the Oklahoma-Arkansas border. There's some parks starting to happen. All these wonderful lakes, rivers, and streams around here. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
So you told me a little bit about Sugar Creek. Where else have you kayaked here? Have you had that opportunity yet?
You know, I was supposed to go on the Buffalo a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately, business kept it from it. You know, one of the great ironies of running a kayak company is that you're the busiest when everyone else wants to be out on the water.
Right.
So let's maybe if I get an invite back here in a couple of years, my list of places that I've kayaked in Arkansas is going to be a little bit longer, but certainly the lakes up in Bella Vista have kayaked up there. In addition to Sugar Creek, went kayaking in Osage Park, right downtown, right next to the airport there. Great little place to, that's the great thing about the sport. You've got everything from, the hardcore enthusiasts and professionals all the way down to go picnicking with the kids and have a kayak or two that the kids and the adults can paddle around an urban park. So right now, yeah, that's my list right now, but it'll grow.
That's great. I mean, so kayaking really is like mountain biking. You can be a beginner or a professional, and hopefully we can develop really that same scene here. The water trails, as you said, are here to develop the same sort of scene where a beginner and a professional can go together and have just as much fun. Bentonville's the mountain biking capital of the world. And the outdoor scene, I would say, is wide open here. If you're in the middle of the country, that is between the Appalachians and the Rockies, this is it. This is the only place that's left that's a huge space with the full-blown experience of an abundance of pristine mountains and lakes and rivers and streams. What does that mean for Eddyline Kayaks and companies like yours?
Yeah, well, I go back to the original, our goal and our mission to help people safely access clean and healthy waterways. Without accessibility of healthy water, we don't have a business. We don't have a sport. So, it's that's not just a social mission for us, but it's a critical business mission as well. People will buy kayaks if they have places near where they are to go and do those things. And it's a virtuous cycle as well, right? Which is, if you have people who kayak, they are going to be intimately aware of shoreline health. They'll be intimately aware of water quality issues in ways, frankly, that other boaters are not. When you are paddling along a shoreline and you see big wakes come up and you see shoreline erosion that's exposing, root systems of shoreline trees, you're seeing it there close up in a kayak. If you're paddling along a shore and you're seeing a lot of oil slicks, you see that in a kayak or a paddleboard or a canoe. And you're experiencing it in ways that you don't necessarily do so in other craft. Likewise with birds, with other wildlife that exists right where the shore meets the water. So it's a little bit of a virtuous cycle, right? The more people will kayak if you have healthy waterways, and then the more kayakers you have on healthy waterways, the more that they're going to be invested in protecting and preserving those and creating new opportunities for access. So it's a huge opportunity to, because yes, the heartland does have a lot of great healthy waterways. And if you want a public that is invested in preserving those and becomes aware of issues as they're coming up, get them out in kayaks. And I think, you've seen a lot of that in mountain biking as well. And I think we can, kayakers can be part of that equation. So yeah, it's a great example for us. It's something that we can point to in other communities and say, hey, this is how it all works together. You can have retailers and brands and nonprofits and enthusiasts and clubs all working together towards a shared common vision and goal, and really show what the power of that community can be, because it does end up it's very local, right? So we we recognize that we have a part, but it's only a part. But it's really exciting to see communities that are truly invested in these vision and values getting together and making a difference. And I'm excited for what that'll mean for Northwest Arkansas going forward too.
You bet. You guys really will have a symbiotic relationship with this community. This is exactly the kind of companies that we look to be part of our community in some way, that you can build your company and also help protect and preserve the things that we've grown to love here. I think that's an amazing fit. Suppose an outdoor recreation company doesn't already have a presence of some sort here. What's your pitch for them to come and plant a flag in some way?
Yeah, well, it's it's not that easy today to find a community in the U.S. that is simultaneously committed to being a hospitable business environment and a marquee place for outdoor recreation as well, and a place that's growing, a place that's vibrant. Community and sense of place is important. It's critical for employees. It's critical for customers, and finding a place that's looking forward with that vision is important for a company. And so I'd say, whatever you think you might know, just go and check it out. That was I know my experience was, and like I said, I grew up in Idaho. I grew in a flew over state that was kind of, just set aside by the coastal elites that I worked with early in my career. And yet I still arrived at Bentonville, and, I looked around and I experienced everything outside in the community in the downtown areas, Bentonville, Fayetteville. And I'm like, wow, this place has really got a lot going on. So seeing's believing. Go on out and check it out.
Literally the conversation I had with somebody earlier today. It seems as if until recently the Ozarks were broadly unknown. Many didn't realize you could come to the middle of the country and get, steep cliffs and rugged canyons and waterfalls and huge lakes and rivers and streams. And at the same time, a mountain range that's lush and green and full of, I'll say, surprise and mystery. And as you noted, then you throw into that the corporate culture, and you throw in an innovation culture, and you throw in a place where families want to grow and live, and you really have something special, which probably explains our growth as Bentonville's growth as one of the fastest growing cities in the country, this region's growth as one of the fastest growing regions in the country, and in fact in the middle of the country, which is the fastest growing part of the country. And so I guess that explains quite a bit of what's going on. Will you tell me a story in your short history with Bentonville? What's something that's happened to you, or where you look at the situation and think, well, that's a hashtag because Bentonville moment or story? And I'll give you an example. For me, it's the first time I saw a bike detour sign. Actually, I saw another one the other day I have to mention. I don't know if they all have them on the back, but I noticed for the first time the other day a police SUV with a bike rack on the back.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be my first thought as well, as seeing the families biking around and just how ubiquitous biking is around. But I think one thing that really speaks to the draw that the area has, the downtown area is really special, right? The downtown area where you can still walk into the center and lie down on the grass and and just kick back and feel 100% safe and people milling around and everything. But, it's a small community, it's a tight community, and it's a very building community. So I had been out there. It's probably only my third trip out to Arkansas, and I'd had meetings with a half dozen people, just getting to know people in the business community, and then the next morning I was grabbing coffee at the coffee shop in downtown Bentonville. His name escapes me.
Onyx.
Thank you. I was at Onyx with a friend, and there were no fewer than 4 people that stopped and said hello to me. And these are people that I'd seen, 1 or 2 times. I might have met them the day before or whatever. But I was like, man, my coffee shop in Washington, I don't run into, 4 people that I know like that quickly. Like, it's just, it was incredible. And they stopped, and they not only, hey, how's it going? How are your meetings going? Are you getting sold on the area? Is there anything we can do to sell you? I mean, people have true religion about Arkansas, and the first you see it and you hear people talk about it, you're like, wow, that person's really passionate about their community. And then you hear it again and again, you're like, no, that's everyone who's passionate about this community. So yeah, it's great. I mean, again, when I come to town for business, it feels great. I feel like I'm coming home. So it's I think that's a pretty uniquely Bentonville thing as well.
Yeah, that's great. I just spent the last week in Silicon Valley and met several people who were familiar with Bentonville and familiar with people from Bentonville, and had friends from Bentonville who said that they were planning to make a visit because their friends were so darn passionate about the place and that they had not heard anybody talk about a place in that way. And by the way, Onyx, somebody else said, oh, yeah, you have that coffee shop there that's so well known. And I went, really? They're like, yeah. And I expected them to say that, they said, yeah, I was in a coffee shop a few weeks ago. And I expected them to say Portland or San Jose or whatever. And they said, I was in Amsterdam and they had Onyx coffee. And it was amazing. I've got to go check that place out. So, okay, let's start bringing this adventure to a close. What is it that our audience can do to help with your success?
Oh, wow. Get out on water. Give it a shot. I won't even say go out and buy an Eddyline. We're still in this crazy situation where throughout a lot of the country, we're still sold out and we're catching up. And for a lot of people who are just getting into the sport, maybe, jumping straight into a premium product like an Eddyline isn't the right answer. I personally, I love the fact that there's so much, that there's so many boats distributed through mass merchant retailers that get people out on the water. So go get out on the water, go paddle. Go grab someone you love and go paddle with them. If you're a dad of kids like me, the great thing about paddling is they've got to have both hands on the paddle, and they can't have a phone or a tablet or a video game controller. So go grab someone, get out on the water, find a place near you, and just sit back and listen and experience what that's like. And maybe that might be a sport for you. And then if you enjoy it, go and grab a friend, go and grab a neighbor, and take them out as well. Finding ways to get out on the waters, it's restorative to each other, to ourselves, community, nature. And I think do yourself a favor rather than do Eddyline a favor, and go spend some time out in nature, spend some time on the water.
That's great. For a guy who cannot sit still, it sounds like something that I need to do. And I have a 2-year-old son at home, and I cannot wait to get him outdoors and doing things like this. You gave your website earlier, but here's another shot. How can folks reach you and Eddyline Kayaks?
Yeah, eddyline.com, Scott at eddyline.com if you want to shoot me a note. Follow us, Facebook, Instagram. We put a lot of cool user-generated content. We don't have pros, but we've got a lot of folks who really enjoy what they're able to see in North America on our boats. So it's a fun community as well. Our online community of paddlers that we've got is they're a special group of passionate, committed people who are seeing all sorts of different places. So be part of that conversation. And if I can be, if you've got any questions for me, like I said, Scott at eddyline.com, feel free to drop me an email as well.
Cool. Okay. A couple more questions, one of which I did not share with you. And I'll have to switch it up for season 2 coming up soon. By the way, a quick plug for that. This is our outdoor recreation season. Our next season kicks off soon. It's all about mobility. That's everything from bikes to drones to flying cars, air taxis, and so on. Get ready to check it out. Okay, back to this. So one question I didn't ask you about, if you had a superpower and that superpower came with a limitation, what would it be? I'll give you an example of mine. Mine would be that, coming up tonight, if I was watching the Arkansas baseball game and I wanted to be there at the College World Series, I could pick up my remote and press a button and it would transport me into the stadium.
Right.
Now, the limitation would be that it would also transport somebody into the stadium who just thought baseball was stupid, didn't like sports at all, and was in my ear about it the entire time.
Okay. Boy, let's see. The first thing that pops into my mind would be a pause button. So I could hit pause right now, and I could go kayak for 3 hours, come back and unhit the pause button, and not having missed a beat in this conversation and still have time to do what I need to do afterwards. So that would be the superpower. And if I had to enforce a limitation on it, I would be wearing pink polka dots shirts every time that I use the pause button, and I had to keep it on. I don't know.
That one's pretty strong. I like it. What should I have asked you that I did not?
I think it's important to talk about the challenges that we're going through right now. And there's lots of them. We've got supply chain challenges, inflation, labor shortages. It's kind of a unique time in that, these challenges for business owners, for employees, for just humans have been nonstop for 2 years, right? We just haven't had a down moment from crisis to crisis to crisis. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a question in there. Maybe just the question would be, how do you handle living in perpetual crisis as a leader of a company for 2+ years? And I'd say never lose sight of the fact that it's all about people. First and foremost, it's about your team, your employees. It's about the people you're shoulder to shoulder with day in, day out. It's about your responsibility to your customers, and but really the people, yourself. Take care of yourself through all of this. It's easy to burn yourself out through these crises, and then your team as well. But just hold on and find an outlet like kayaking to keep yourself grounded to the bigger picture. And I think we're all going to be okay.
Man, that was such a solid answer. I'm not even going to comment on it. I want to leave our audience with that sitting on their minds. Scott, thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm hopeful that our viewers did too. If y'all made it through to this far, great job to y'all too. thank you so much, Scott. Thank you to the viewers for taking the time to spend time with us. If you want to learn more, hear more podcasts, check out BentonvilleEconomicDevelopment.com. Learn more about Bentonville's leaders and their businesses and this place where you can have more of what you want and less of what you don't. So come back next time. Thank you.